The tiger is often called the king of the forest, which is strange. It is not the largest animal there. An elephant is much bigger. It is not the fastest. On open ground, a cheetah would leave it behind. Its skin is not armored. Its bite is not the strongest, and it is certainly not unbeatable. So why the tiger? Why not the elephant? Or the crocodile? Or that clever crow sitting above them all, silently judging everyone? I am asking for professional reasons. But perhaps we are asking the wrong question. Maybe the tiger did not become king because it was the best at anything. Maybe it became king because power was never about being the best. We like to imagine power as something simple. The strongest person wins. The smartest person leads. The most talented person rises to the top. It feels fair, easy to understand. But real power rarely works that way. The most powerful person in a company is not always the best worker. The most influential person in a room is not always the smartest. And yet, when they speak, the room becomes quiet. When they move, everyone else adjusts. When they make a decision, the consequences travel far beyond their own body. That is the difference. Strength is something you can do. Power is what you can make happen. The tiger is strong, obviously. It has enough muscle to bring down animals larger than itself. But that does not make it invincible. A buffalo can kill it. A crocodile can drag it underwater. An elephant does not need to be reminded which one of them is heavier. The tiger understands this, so it does not walk into an open field and challenge every animal to a fair fight. It waits. It watches. It moves through tall grass where its stripes break apart its outline. It gets close before the other animal fully understands what is happening. The tiger does not ask, "Can I win this fight fairly?" It asks, "How do I make sure the fight is never fair?"
That may be the first real lesson about power.
People with little power usually have to play the game as it already exists. Powerful people have more influence over the field, the timing, and the rules. Imagine two people entering a competition. One trained harder. They are more skilled and more disciplined. The other owns the stadium. They choose the judges, decide what will be measured, and may even define what winning means. Who is more likely to come out ahead? We admire the player, but we should also watch whoever designed the game. They rarely put themselves on the scoreboard. You can see this everywhere. An employee may work very hard, but someone else decides which work gets noticed. A small company may build a better product, but a larger company controls access to customers. A citizen may have a strong argument, but an institution decides which forms must be completed before anyone listens. Power does not always defeat you directly. Sometimes it simply arranges the world so that defeating it becomes extremely difficult. No dramatic battle, no villainous speech, just a form you filled out incorrectly on page 7. Picture a meeting room. People are talking freely. Someone is making jokes. A difficult question is about to be asked. Then the senior executive walks in. No threat, no order, but backs become straighter. Voices become careful. The unfinished joke disappears, and the difficult question becomes safer. The executive may not even notice. So where was the power in that moment? Was it inside the person who entered? Or was it inside everyone else, predicting what that person might approve, dislike, reward, or remember? Power often works before it speaks. Sometimes the room changes first.
The tiger has the same advantage. It does not need to be seen to change the behavior of the forest.
A deer does not need to look directly into a tiger's eyes before becoming careful. A rustle in the grass may be enough. An unfamiliar smell. A forest that has suddenly become a little too quiet. The tiger may be 100 meters away. It may already be gone. But the possibility alone changes where the deer walks next. Physical force controls a body when it is present. Fear can control a body from a distance. And that is where strength becomes something larger. The most efficient kind of power is not constant punishment. Punishment is expensive. It takes effort, creates resistance, and reveals how much force actually exists. A ruler who must personally threaten every citizen is not very powerful. A manager who must watch every employee is not managing much at all. Power becomes more efficient when people begin controlling themselves. They avoid certain rooms. They lower their voices. They learn which questions are safe to ask. They imagine what might happen if they step outside the line. Eventually, no one needs to push them back. They do it on their own. The tiger has one body, but fear allows it to exist in many places at once. Humans built more elaborate versions of the same mechanism. Titles, uniforms, badges, logos, buildings designed to make you feel small when you walk inside. None of them are power by themselves. A crown is metal, a uniform is cloth, a title is sound. But symbols tell people how to behave before the person wearing them acts. A judge enters, and everyone stands. An official letter arrives, and even the font feels vaguely threatening, especially if it uses too much bold text. A king cannot stand in every village. A director cannot watch every employee, but their symbols can be everywhere. The body has limits. A symbol can travel. This is part of why the tiger makes such a convincing king. Long before most people ever saw a real tiger, they heard stories about one. The animal grew larger in our imagination than it ever was in the forest. It stopped being only a predator and became courage, danger, protection, and royalty. The tiger did not create those meanings, we did. And that is slightly uncomfortable to notice, because power does not live only inside the powerful. Part of it lives inside everyone who recognizes it, repeats it, and reacts to it. A title works because people answer to it. A throne matters because people agree to face it. A crown is heavy only because thousands of people treat it as if it is. But not all power is forced on us. Some power is granted. We give authority to pilots, doctors, judges, and leaders because groups need coordination. Someone has to make the final call. A plane cannot debate every change in the weather. An emergency room cannot vote on every medical decision, although some teams will try. Trust, knowledge, and responsibility can all create legitimate power. The danger begins when authority that was borrowed starts pretending it was always owned. When a role created to serve a purpose begins protecting itself. When someone needs to decide slowly becomes, this person must never be questioned. A ruler gives an order, but someone else carries it out. A company writes a policy, but employees enforce it. A social rule survives because ordinary people repeat and defend it. That is what separates power from ordinary strength. A strong person acts. A powerful person can cause hundreds of others to act, often without entering the room themselves. Strength is personal. Power is distributed through relationships, institutions, habits, and expectations. The person at the center may look enormous, but the system holding them up is made from many ordinary hands. Fear alone does not hold forever. People obey while a threat feels close. The moment it feels distant, they begin testing the edges. For power to survive, it needs something more stable. It needs to feel normal. At first, people obey because they are afraid. Later, because it is the rule. Eventually, because they cannot imagine any other arrangement. This is when power becomes hardest to see. Someone says, "That is simply how things work," or "People like us do not belong there." There is no visible threat in the sentence, no violence, no tiger, but the boundary remains. Power has moved from the outside world into the imagination. There was never an election in the forest. No animal compared the tiger's speed with its management experience. No crown ceremony took place, and yet, King of the Forest sounds strangely natural, as though no one ever had to invent it. Successful power often hides its own construction. A position may begin through conflict, luck, or accident. After enough time, it starts to look inevitable. The person on the throne changes. The throne remains. The executive retires. The office remains. Power becomes strongest when it no longer needs to explain why it exists. This is also why being the strongest is not enough. Strength must keep proving itself. A fighter is considered unbeatable only until the day they lose. A fast animal has to keep running. A talented worker has to keep producing. Power can survive individual failure. A powerful person makes a mistake, and their position may absorb the damage. Their network protects them. Their reputation buys another chance. Their allies reinterpret the failure. People with little status are often defined by one mistake. People with power have reputations, systems, and supporters capable of explaining theirs away. That is not invincibility. It is insulation. Of course, reputation has a weakness. It can grow larger than reality. The tiger may appear invincible from a distance, but up close, it is still flesh and blood. It gets tired. It grows old. It chooses its battles carefully because one serious injury may be enough to kill it later. Powerful people and institutions do the same. They avoid situations that reveal their limits. Ceremonies instead of tests. Controlled questions instead of open ones. The illusion does not need to be perfect. People only need to believe that challenging it may cost more than they are willing to risk. Power lives in that gap between what it can actually do and what others fear it might do. But gaps do not stay hidden forever. One person challenges the system and survives. Then someone else tries the same thing. People begin comparing notes. They discover that the tiger was not everywhere. The punishment was not automatic. The authority was less united than it appeared. Once power stops looking unbeatable, its influence can shrink quickly. A wall may stand for 100 years, then one crack appears, and suddenly everyone notices that the wall was built from ordinary bricks. That is why powerful systems care so much about appearances. A failure is not only a failure, it is information. It teaches people where the limits are. And once the limits become visible, fear becomes arithmetic. So why is the Tiger King? Not because it is the largest, not because it is the fastest, not because it wins every fight. It carries enough of several qualities at once. It is strong enough to be dangerous, patient enough to wait, quiet enough to stay uncertain, smart enough to avoid needless fights, rare and striking enough to become a symbol. But the crown did not come from the tiger. It came from us. We saw the animal. We felt fear. We built stories around that fear. Then, after repeating those stories for long enough, the title began to feel natural. The forest did not choose a king. We did. So when someone appears powerful, do not ask only what they can personally do. Ask who carries out their decisions and repeats their title when they are absent. Ask who benefits from the rules and who is afraid to test them. Ask whether the authority comes from expertise, trust, fear, habit, or the belief that everyone else will keep obeying. Because every crown is supported by something. Sometimes it is force. Sometimes it is competence. Sometimes it is genuine consent. And very often, it is supported by thousands of people quietly agreeing not to question why it is there. Power may sit at the top, but it is held up from below. The tiger never conquered a throne. There was no throne to conquer. We built one in our minds and placed the animal on top of it. Then we pointed toward the crown and said, "Look, a king." Perhaps power has always worked this way. Part strength, part trust, part fear, part story, and part of it existing only because everyone in the room believes that everyone else believes. The forest, naturally, had no comment. It has animals, it has consequences, and apparently, excellent branding.